So you guys should see a message pop up on your end about the recording, and then we will get into it. All right, you guys. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bobby Berry, and I serve in a couple of capacities. One is the Assistant Dean for Diversity and Outreach for the College of Applied Studies. And also, I serve as the chair for the First Generation Coordinating Council for Wichita State University. As you guys may or may not know, November 8th was First Gen month, or National First Gen Day. And so we're celebrating all month long. And I thought, what better way to do that than to hear from some of our first gen college students here within the College of Applied Studies, specifically about their experiences. And so I think in order for us to make any progress, I think it's always important to be able to hear directly from the individuals who our efforts and initiatives are impacting. So I'm going to go through and have each one of you all introduce yourselves and kind of tell your name, your major, and specifically what academic standing you are. So freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and then we will get into our questions for today. So I'll start with Alex, and we'll then go to Kristy, and then we'll go to Madison. So Alex, go ahead.
My name is Alex Gallegos. I'm a sophomore studying sports management and exercise science.
All right, Kristy.
My name is Kristy Pacheco, and I'm a senior studying elementary education.
And Madison.
My name is Madison George. I am also senior studying secondary education for chemistry.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for taking time out of your schedules. I know it's right before the holidays, so I do appreciate you guys. So the first thing that I want to ask you guys is, when did you know that you were a first generation college student? I mean, in my opinion, that's a term that has become very popular over the last 3 to 5 years, really. I didn't hear a lot about it. I'm a first gen college student. I went to Wichita State, and I didn't know I was a first gen college student until I actually started working at the university. So that was really not a term I heard, even when I was doing my undergrad. So I'm gonna start with Kristy. When did you know or that you were a first gen college student?
For me, so I went to community college first, the first 2 years, and I didn't really know back then because it would just be, I would go to class and then I would go back home. So I didn't really interact with a lot of people. I never really heard the term. But then when I got to WSU, my first year there, I heard about it and I was like, oh, like I'm first gen and I didn't even know.
Yeah.
So I would say that it would be during my junior year of college.
Okay. Wow. What about you, Alex?
I probably knew my senior year of high school when I was applying to schools. A couple of the scholarships that came up into my email were first generation from my counselor, and she kind of talked to me about it, and she was like, like if anybody in your family's gone to college, like these don't regard you. And I asked my mom, and she was like, no, you'll be the first. So
Wow. Wow. What about you, Madison?
Mine was also my senior year of high school. I guess I had never really talked to my parents about it. My mom got a dental listing certificate, so I didn't really think of that not being college. And then my dad attended a community college right out of high school, but never finished. And so my senior year, when I was looking at schools and like things like the FAFSA, realizing that my parents didn't know about a lot of that was kind of my first kind of cue in. I just had a conversation with them about it, and they said, "Yeah, you'll be the first in our family." So.
What I think is interesting, so Wichita State, about 46% of our students, of our student population identifies as first gen, which, as you know, we have over 16,000 students. So that is a large percentage of the individuals on our campus. And we're seeing that number grow consistently. And honestly, if you guys may not know this, well, all three of you kind of fit the profile, but we have a larger percentage of females who identify as first gen on our campus as well. So kind of some interesting facts there. And so I think a lot of the times we've kind of heard first gen almost as this deficit mindset about, oh, challenges and struggles and barriers, where it's really not that. Our first gen students are doing really well on our campus, are doing really well academically. And so if you had to choose something, and this may not be relevant for all of you, but if it is, feel free to answer. What has maybe been your biggest challenge as a first generation college student? We'll start with Alex on this one.
yeah, so my biggest challenge was for sure like I'm a person to like reach out to my family when like there's a situation happening or I have any questions. And so like being the first in my family to go to college, like I can't ask them like, oh, it's like so weird just like plan my schedules, like how do I manage my time and work, all kinds of stuff because they've never been in that position. So it's trying to figure out and like try and process kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Madison?
Mine's probably a similar thing. well. Just kind of FAFSA was really hard for me to figure out just because I was trying to do it on my own. And same with applying to scholarships and everything like that. And then now I've been fortunate enough to have a really great family support system that has supported me in my studies and things like that. But it's also just, I'm experiencing something that is unfamiliar to my parents. And so just kind of the struggle of not feeling like I have a resource in them to be able to go to for specific things because it's something they haven't experienced.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point. What about you, Kristy?
I think my biggest challenge would be like feeling confident enough that I deserve to be in the room, because I know with my major specifically, a lot of my peers, they talk about how their parents are teachers, how their family members are teachers, how they have that support, that background knowledge. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, like, should I even be in the room, because I don't even know the information that's needed to pursue that career. So I feel like just believing in myself has been a very huge challenge.
For sure, and I'm sure I don't know if you guys have heard of this whole term, but kind of speaking to what you just said, Kristy, this whole notion of imposter syndrome, right? So not really having some of the previous knowledge as you walk into spaces, and I think even myself as a professional, I used to still have that feeling as a person in their 30s and navigating in a higher ed. Sometimes I would sit at a table and I would look around and I'm like, my parents didn't have 4-year degrees, like, and here I am sitting at a board table with people who have been in higher education for 20 years, and I'm the youngest one in the room, and so sometimes I even have some of those challenges. And I remember someone telling me that when you're a first generation college student, you're also going to be the first for a lot of things, right? You may be the first one to have a professional job, in quotes, right? You may be the first one to buy a house by time you're a certain age. You may be the first one in your family to do a lot of things, right? So that feeling doesn't really just disappear, right? I think some people feel like, oh, you went to college, you have it all figured out. and that's not necessarily the case. So I appreciate you guys sharing that. You all, I would definitely classify you guys as successful, right? You guys most got some seniors here. I know some of you well, and you guys are doing really amazing things in student organizations and other places on campus. You guys are scholars. And so what would you say that you contribute to your success, both professionally and personally so far? Madison, I'm going to start with you. What do you contribute to your success?
Um, I feel like a lot of things have gotten me to where I am today, but probably the biggest thing is my support system. As far as family, but also friends and people in my personal life. There were a lot of times throughout my last 3.5 years now that I really just thought, like, am I really supposed to be here? Like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? And I really wanted to give up quite a few times, but it was my support system that kept me going and told me, you've gotten this far, so you can finish it. You can do all of this. And also just my parents encouraging me to be the first in my family to do this. I have a younger sister now, and so now I get to be a resource for her as she embarks on her college journey next year. And so I definitely say my support system has been what's gotten me to the point I am.
That's great. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, I would definitely say family too, like reaching back onto like my mom, like she's always there for me to like complain to if like I got a bad grade on a test or anything. And she's always there, like, like even though like I'm the youngest in my family, she's very supportive and she's very proud of me. Like she tells me like how much like my nephews and nieces look up to me and that they get so excited to like even come on like little college visits to my school. And so that's like the biggest thing for me to continue going.
All right, nice. What about you, Kristy?
I think it'd also be my family and my support system, but internally, like within myself, I feel like it'd be my resourcefulness, because as first gen college students, we're forced to make things happen. We're forced to find a way. So I feel like that's a huge part of what's helped me be successful, both professionally and personally.
And it's kind of interesting that you guys kind of that all have hit on family in some shape, way, or form. And I always tell students, like, you can't get through college by yourself, right? There has to be some level of support, because it's hard, as you guys know, if you have jobs or trying to maintain scholarships. We have first gen students who are athletes as well on this campus. So just trying to navigate and juggle a lot of that is a lot, right? And I think the expectation that when you're leaving high school, and then going into college thinking that you're supposed to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. That is also overwhelming, especially when you feel sometimes that you're doing it on your own, right? So I definitely am happy that all of you have strong support systems. And I think, if anything, first-gen students are very resilient, right? As a lot of you guys have spoken to, you've been able to figure things out. You've been able to navigate. So definitely kudos to you guys. That kind of segues into my next question specifically. When you think of support, so outside of your family, is there anything on this campus by way of resources that you guys have utilized as first-gen college students? We have a number of different initiatives and efforts and offices that support our first-gen students. So I'm curious if any of you guys have taken advantage of any of those resources. Alex, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, so the first resource I reached out to was the Diversity and Inclusion Office, and they helped me through Passage, and they gave me a mentor. And me and Jordy are still very close. He reaches out to me every now and then. We check in with each other. And then moving into my second semester of college is actually really harder for me, just personal stuff. So I reached out to CAPS, and that helped a lot as well too. So I was very grateful to have that.
Great. I'm happy to hear about you utilizing those resources for sure. What about you, Kristy?
I think for me it'd be the same thing. The Office of Diversity and Inclusion. They've helped a lot, and also just mentorship in general. I feel like it's helped me see where I want to go and what I must do to get there. So
And what about you, Madison?
So I'm part of student ambassador and I'm a shocker navigator. So the admissions office was kind of the first office that I was exposed to on campus. But a lot of them have been really helpful in kind of navigate things. And then also just kind of a resource that I started using when I was a senior and that I still use now is just reaching out to financial aid, just because the financial aspect was the most daunting thing for me coming in, feeling like I was going to have to navigate that all on my own. So they have been a great resource as well.
And I'm really excited to hear that you guys have been utilizing some of these things. I think sometimes we struggle knowing, like, as a person who works at the university, there's always conversations about, creating new things or implementing these things. And sometimes you don't really know what impact those resources are necessarily making until we hear directly from you all, right? And I think one of the biggest, I wouldn't say mistakes, but one of the things I wish I could change when I was in college is I never used any resources when I was here. Right. So I went to Wichita State myself for all of my degrees. And being a first gen student, I didn't do anything in ODI. I didn't go to CAPS for help. I didn't speak to anybody in financial aid. So I really, I don't know how I made it this far, to be quite honest with you guys, because I really didn't utilize anything. And so looking back, I really wish I would have. And I think the mentorship is really important. So if you guys ever get the opportunity, and I know a lot of you guys, whether it be from admissions or ODI or Passage or Adelante's, whatever that may be, if you guys are able to keep those relationships or at least figure out what you want from a mentor, I think that's so crucial. I have a lot of mentors now that I still speak to on a daily basis. So that part I have been really fortunate for. Rounding out our few questions here, we got a couple of more. One of the things I want to be intentional about is what are we doing to best support our students here in the college, right? So a lot of the resources that you all have named have been outside the College of Applied Studies specifically, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm a firm believer that if students don't know where to go outside of the college, they should be able to go to home base, right? They should be able to go somewhere in their college and not feel like they have to go outside necessarily. So, what are some ways that you think that the College of Applied Studies could maybe do better to support our first gen college students? And I'm going to start with Madison on this one.
Okay. Trying to think. It's a hard question. So I think the thing that I've enjoyed the most about my time in the College of Applied Studies has been my cohort of science education. We're very small. There's only like 8 or 9 of us, but in this last semester, we've built some really strong relationships with each other. But I didn't know these people until this year, and so it was kind of I feel like since we were taking the same classes, they could have served as a resource for me as I went through those maybe more challenging courses during freshman, sophomore, and even junior year. that's just kind of the first thing I can think of, but I'm not necessarily sure how. I don't know if it's like having us meet more with those students, or also just kind of like we're doing here, having our first gen together and just talk, just because
Yeah,
I feel like we don't necessarily see each other much, or we may not even know each other. So maybe like having these meetings and being able to talk about this kind of stuff more openly. These are things that I don't get to talk about with just my friends who aren't first gen because they don't understand.
right.
So
That's a really good point, Madison. To me, that just makes me think about this whole notion of community, right? And how community is really important. And I work with a lot of folks that I didn't even know were first gen on this campus. Our provost, right, is a first gen college student. One of our assistant vice presidents is a college student. The individual who's director of finance on this campus, that oversees all the finance, is also a first gen. So it's just really interesting. We actually have a coordinating council, and I hosted an affinity group for first gen faculty and staff, like a mixer to come together. And I was so surprised of who walked in that room when we sent out the invitation, and how many people in prominent positions across this campus are first gen. So I completely agree with you, Madison. Kristy, what about you? What can we do better to support?
I feel like just the same thing, allowing a space to connect because I honestly feel very disconnected from my college. I don't know if you two feel the same way, but I feel like I don't really get to talk to a lot of people. I don't really have many connections in the college aside from you, Bobby. But that and then also advisors, I feel like advisors could be a lot better prepared to help us because sometimes they don't really understand where we're coming from, and I've had doesn't do the best job.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kristy. You broke up a little bit, but I think I got most of what you said. Primarily the piece about the advising, right? And
Mhm.
being a little connected there. And so we have a recruitment retention committee within our college. And this is something that I can definitely, we have advisors that are represented on that committee. And that would be something great for me to be able to at least strategize with our advisors about how can we best support. Because I know they're willing, they're open. So I think once again, it's really about having conversations that maybe we need to be a little bit more intentional about. So thank you for that. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, so I feel like moving into college your first year, especially as a first generation student, is very overwhelming. Like I come from a population of 400, so moving to a school that has 16,000 people, that's bigger than my county. And so like moving into this is like very scary for some people, especially for me. I feel like having an open door for like a College of Applied Studies area to where we can meet other first generation students or people in our school would be very welcoming, and it would make people feel more comfortable. Because I know whenever I go into my classes like every new semester, I look for somebody that I know. So having that open door and being able to meet people that are in my college and being able to see them in class, I think would be very happy.
Okay. All right. I'm taking mental notes here. So definitely be able to bring that back to my leadership team. So the last question I want to ask you guys is if you could give one piece of advice to other first gen college students that are coming into this college or similar programs, or maybe even the university, however you want to gauge that, what would be your one tip of advice for them? And I'm going to start with Kristy on this one.
Definitely learn to advocate for yourself because if you don't, then nobody else will. And also don't be scared to try things that make you uncomfortable. I used to be very shy and I just kept putting myself in positions that made me scared and uncomfortable. And I feel like I've grown a lot thanks to that.
Absolutely. That would honestly probably be one of the things I suggest as well. I mean, college is really about trial and error, right? I mean, you have 4 years to really figure out who you are and where you can best utilize your talents and what those talents even are, right? I think sometimes college puts you in the situation to really think about what skills you have, what's maybe skills that you're lacking and that you need to improve upon to be successful as you guys venture out into your community and your industry. So yeah, definitely agree with that one. Alex, what about you? One tip of advice.
I feel like like finding a happy balance of like enjoying college and studying would be like the biggest thing. Because like I know my first semester it was so hard to find that like happy medium, and so I would miss events that I was really excited to go to because I was studying, or I was studying or I was going out when I should have been studying. Like finding a happy balance and setting like a set schedule so you can still enjoy your college time and go to those events that Wichita State is holding and still like passing your classes is a big thing.
Yeah, I think that balance is hard. And the further you guys get into your academic careers, the harder it gets because you guys are doing, clinical rotations for some of you, internships, practicums, all that stuff, student teaching hours. And it gets hard. You guys are working, so it is a lot. So time management is definitely crucial. And what about you, Madison?
The biggest piece of advice that I always tell students is learn how to live with discomfort and be open to growth, because your 4 years in college are where you're probably going to grow the most in your life. And I realize now that my freshman and sophomore year, I was reserved. I stayed with what was comfortable for me. And I realize now that I've learned to be okay with discomfort and to realize that that's really grow. So much happened for me. And that also involves reaching out for resources that you maybe are uncomfortable with reaching out for. So just being okay with discomfort, but also being open to the growth that you're going to have as an individual during your time in college.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that one. Well, for sure, to each one of you, I first want to say thank you for taking time and answering the questions that I've asked you. I learned a lot from you guys, believe it or not. I always think it's important that these conversations are had because it's eye-opening for me as a person who works here. I also wanted to give you guys the opportunity, if you had anything that you maybe want to ask of me, whether it's anything college related is pertaining to where we're going, or maybe something university related to first gen, or even maybe just my perspective as a first gen college student myself. So I at least wanted to take the time to extend that if you guys had any questions that you may want to ask of me.
I don't necessarily know if this would be like a question, but I guess raised as a question. Do you plan on doing more to like bring alumni of the university who are first gen back to be able to provide their perspective for first gen students? Because I'm just thinking, like, I graduate in May, but I really do serve as a resource for first gen students still that are still here, just because I feel like I didn't really get that perspective when I first came here from alumni who gone through it and were able to share resources and things that helped them get through.
That's a really great point that I really like, actually. So maybe that can be something that we do going forward, is being able to have these conversations within your various programs, right? Because the teacher K through 12 experience is different than sport management or exercise science or something else. I wonder if maybe that commitment can be made on behalf of some of your faculty members. Maybe I can talk to them about how do we bring some of our alumni back and have these intentional conversations. And I would love to be a part of that. So thank you for that suggestion. I appreciate that. Kristy, Alex, you guys have any questions for me?
Oh, good over here.
For me, just are there any like changes or additions that are coming to the college?
Well, we do have a new dean coming in January. So that's going to be one. And I think with Dean Friend coming into the role, I think there will be some changes that I'm excited about. She comes from Kansas City, and so she has a real affinity for diversity. She has a real affinity for public education, and so I think we'll most likely see some efforts that are going to be steered towards that. Retention is a huge focus at the university right now. So we're really strategizing at how do we get you guys here, but how do we keep you guys and engage you guys in a more effective manner. And then I'm really excited to see, as an individual who is in the role of diversity and outreach, I'm really excited to continue to find ways to bring some of those intentional conversations into all of the classrooms and be way more intentional going forward about how we approach those topics. So that's as much as I can give you. I don't want to say anything specific, but that's kind of the direction that we're focusing, and I'm really excited about it. Well, with that being said, once again, thank you for your time, and I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving and finish the semester strong. And for those of you that are coming up on graduation, definitely kudos to you guys, and I'm excited to see what you guys do going forward. So once again, thank you guys so much, and I will hopefully see you guys soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.